Up next on American Made Classics, we're springing in the new suspension on my Budget AMC Drag Car. So let's go. Come along. Oh, whoa. Hey, welcome back. So yes, this will be eventually getting to the reassembly of the front suspension on the car. But first I wanted to show you something real quick. Been busy a little bit off camera. Check that out. These are my new meats. Well, they're not new. They're used. I got them actually as a part of the trade for this car, as far as the newbie setup, if that's what you want to call it. Yeah, I basically got they're basically 10-year-old tires, but you know, as far as like a starter setup, I'm not gonna complain. I got them basically for free. I actually had a different set of wheels I wanted to use, you know, try to keep the costs down, but they were the wrong offset, and I was kind of forced to buy, well, properly offsetted wheels. So I splurged a little bit, and what I mean by splurge, these wheels here were only I think 190 bucks a piece. So I mean, yeah, I really splurged on I really splurged on these wheels. They are a 15 by 10 VMS racing wheel with a -25 offset, and I think they filled out pretty well. And I think there could be a little bit of room as far as if I wanted to go wider or even a larger diameter tire. These are 27s. 27s, plenty of. And actually, you know, when this car, it's gonna start off with air shocks, so this will be sitting up just a little bit higher as well. But yeah, those are my new tires. That's the first thing I wanted to show you. And then coming in here, there's a seat. I got playing around with mounting a seat, and this kind of took a long time, and then I ended up cutting the brackets too short, and I had to weld them back together, and it's in. It's not done yet, still has a little bit of, that's nice, I just broke something. Well, anyway, this seat was also part of the trade for this car, so it has also kind of, well, seen better days, so those are gonna feel really nice in my butt. But maybe I can put some foam down, you know, it doesn't have to be all negative, you know, just, you know. When stuff comes for like basically next to nothing, I mean, basically the seat was thrown in for free, I ain't gonna complain. But anyway, I kind of sat in here, dimensions seem right. I put my helmet on, I got like about 2 inches, so I think that should be within spec, within reason of the rules. You know, I've talked about this before. Not going to be putting in a roll cage quite yet. So we're going to have to rely on the good old-fashioned seat belts, the stock seat belts. But hey, in time, budget car, right? Budget. We're not going faster than 1150 that we need a roll bar. Hey, that's my seat. Those are my wheels and tires. I mean, I am pretty pumped about these, man. These really filled out. Although, one thing I'm a little bit worried about, that is a 10.5-inch tire, and that's a 10-inch rim. So I don't have any wheel screws. It is kind of bothering me a little bit, or making me worried. but I don't know if this car is going to be putting out that much power that it's going to turn the wheel inside there. But we'll find out. We will find out when it comes time to do that. And I really don't know if I want to drill holes in these nice... I mean, they are really cheap, but when the time comes, if I need better wheels, we'll do that. But anyway, that is that. Let's get going on the front suspension. One thing I forgot to mention, never mind this is coming up in the video, but one thing I forgot to mention, rust repair. Big thanks to Smiley for coming over and helping me with cutting out all the bad rot. This is the notorious AMC rust and rot location. Big thanks to Smiley. That's all taken care of. So the first thing that we're going to start with is putting the coil spring in. Got the coil spring compressor in place and simply just going to compress it up. And I will put the upper control arm in. This is probably the worst part of the whole process, but it's got to happen. So here we go. All right, so off camera there, I went on the inside of the engine bay and put in the bolts. And since this is kind of in the air like it is, I want to put in the little piece that I call Squidward's nose. Well, you know, it looks like Squidward's nose. And there we go, Squidward's nose is in place. Now the next order of business is I'm going to start decompressing the spring. I'm going to have to, as it's coming down, as I loosen the nut on the coil spring compressor, I'm going to have to try to force these bolts into the holes on the upper control arm as it's coming down. Nuts on the bottom. It's just enough to kind of hold it in place so I can finish decompressing the spring. All right, the tool is now fully decompressed on the spring. I'm having a little trouble with this nut here. Somehow got a little bit tighter than finger tight. But anyway, that back one, I can get my finger just up in here and I can barely just twist it, start twisting it off. So I'll be able to get that back one off. This one got a little tighter than usual, but anyway, upper control arm spring in place, and that is a relief. And time for the lower control arm. Sometimes these can be a bear to get back in, and this one went pretty easy. And I'm going to put the bolt from this way, from the opposite side than what it is from the factory, because from what I hear, that could help me with running headers. And I'm just going to tighten this down until it's just snug, because I don't want to tighten this without the weight of the car on it. We can always adjust it later. All right, so now a little bit of the trickery starts to take place. Let's see if we can attempt to get this knuckle in place. real trickery is really when we're going to put the strut rod. That kind of is going to require this to move back and forth, and usually involves some ratchet straps. But the knuckle here, we're probably still going to have to lift up a little bit to try to get these to seat as much as they can. And of course, got to put the cotter pins in. All right, ladies and germs, this is now my third time's charm recording this, because I only do one of these probably a year. So it's trying to remember everything that you got to do, I guess. So let's put it together the right way. Okay, so we're going to put together the strut rod with the strut rod mount and the bushing. So take everything back apart. Here is the strut rod bushing. Okay, that's stuck. Cool. It'll come in a box like this. This one here is a Mevotech. This is a MK8157. I get these from Rock Auto. They are actually listed under AMC Eagle in their drop-down menus, but they will work for all your small body AMC cars. So your Concorde, Gremlin, Hornet, Spirit, and of course Eagle as well. That's what we're using here. And here again, we're going to start over for me. So it actually is going to go down like this. I had this thing backwards, and then I tried going like this. Or I don't know what the heck I was doing. Either way, it was wrong. So it goes like this on the frame rail on the driver's side. So remember, we're only talking about the driver's side here. So it's going to come down like this, and this is going to attach to the lower control arm. We'll start assembling the bushing, because there is an order in how these washers and bushings go together. First of all, I want to start off by saying the position of this nut kind of helps. Yeah, well, of course, it's part of your alignment. I believe this is the caster adjustment, I believe, where the wheel sits underneath of the car there, more forward or more backwards in the wheel well. I just kind of measured, and I kind of just put this nut where it was. I may have to tweak it a little bit, but this is kind of in the ballpark of where it was to begin with, and that'll really help the alignment guy when it comes time for an alignment. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take a washer, a simple washer, and put that on. Then we're going to take one rubber bushing with the flat side going out away from the strut rod. We'll need I'm going to call this a spacer. Put him on. Tight fit. There we go. So that'll go to the end of the bushing like that. All right, now we're going to call this piece, I believe I want to call it maybe a washer, a backing washer. And that'll go over the rubber bushing like so. Like this. Then we'll take the mount itself and we'll put it in there. And you can kind of see how that sits in there nice and flush, or very close to flush anyway. Okay, I need more hands. Okay, then we're going to take here now for the other side, we'll take another rubber bushing. And that's going to sit flat against the mount. Take another washer, like so. And there is 2 nuts. One nut is a little bit thicker than the other one. We're going to put the thicker nut on. And you'll also notice there's a flat side and there's more of a rounded side. We're going to use the flat side. So the flat side is on this. The flat side basically goes whatever you're trying to sandwich together. All right, and we're going to just kind of get her semi-snug. And you'll see right now there's not enough room to put on the locking nut, but I mean, we're going to be wiggling and jiggling this around trying to get it in place on the car. It's definitely best if this is a little bit loose, and we can come back later and snug this up and then be able to add our nut. All right, so like I said, 3rd time's a charm. Let's go try to put this in the car. So this next part here is going to be the trickiest part of the whole job, and that's going to be the alignment of basically the strut rod to the lower control arm. So basically the strut rod's got to attach excuse me, to the lower control arm, and it's going to be extremely more difficult for me because I don't have an engine in here, so there's no weight on my spring to really kind of help basically bring this up. So the strut rod, also being a nice fresh new bushing, is going to be pretty hard and stiff, and it's going to want to probably sit like up here, and I'm going to have to try my best to force it down so I can try to get the bolts in here that are on the end of your strut rod. So I may have to get creative. It's funny, when you put things together the right way, they have a chance of actually going together correctly. All right, so I gotta get my bolts. There's one bolt on the other side here, and then there's a bolt that goes through. Okay. All right, I gotta rewind here. I didn't film this one particular part just because it is such a grueling task, and I'll just try to recap it the best I can. So I got the strut rod bolted down and tightened now to the lower control arm. And basically what makes it so challenging is this rubber bushing is so gosh darn, it's so new. Well, makes it tight. And it's hard to move. And basically you got to get it lined up with this. And there comes in here the ratchet strap. And I can't compress my suspension enough to really get this up, so you're pushing down as hard as you can on this, while this is trying to pull this lower control arm and knuckle towards the front of the car. I got it attached up here. It's trying to pull it over, you're trying to push down, you're also trying to get a bolt in there, and basically I got a bolt kind of started, and then I take my hammer and I kind of give her a couple taps to get it in. Then I tighten this front one, right? So then it's trying to pull it and pull it and pull it. And then finally I'll be able to get the back one in. I had to hammer this in as well. And then you're able to finally get a nut and tighten her down. And I did have to loosen the back nut a little bit, but you don't want to loosen it too far because then you're going to mess up. This won't sit in here correctly then. So it's kind of a big game. You just gotta do it. And I did my best to try to recreate and paint the picture, but I'm glad that's over with. Let's go ahead and put the sway bar link back in. We can't forget to put on our steering arm on the back side. Problem is I can't see anything. All right, so you can see this is where we're at. Got the dust shield mounted, caliper bracket, spindle, everything looking pretty sharp. Coming up on my favorite part now, and that is getting the rotor back on and all that lovely stuff. Problem is, I was looking through my parts and I was looking at the calipers I bought. Surprise, they're painted red because it's going on a race car, man. It's got to be red. So I looked at my calipers I got. The other one's laying over on the bench over there. But for crying out loud, they're both rights. Even though I ordered a left and a right, of course. And what shows up? 2 rights. So I'll have to wait till the left shows up so I can actually finish this. But anyway, I think my rotors are down here. I got brand new spanking rotors. I already worked on one of them here. I got nice extended studs. I drilled the holes out, put the studs in. I actually had a machinist I know turn this down a little bit so I can run the rims I want to run. These are the center caps for the rims. That's how I knew what size to make those. But they're all ready. I actually also pounded out the races. I mean, they come with races in them, but they're cheap Chinese junk. So I'm going to go with some nice national bearings here. So I pounded those races out, the old Chinese ones, and I put these national ones in their place. So I got one that's ready to go for the left side, so that's the one that'll be going in. But one thing I got to do before that goes in is I got to pack some bearings, and I also got to put the seal on the back side. And then it'll be ready to put in the car. Okay. Come on, there we go. Nice, tight, snug fit. Now I'm going to try to get the bearings to seat, as they are indeed fresh bearings. Okay. I mean, I didn't give it that much force, but, you know, wanted to give it enough that they, well, seat. Probably something like that, I'd say. And of course, we're going to put a little bit of grease in the cap. Perfect. And of course, because O'Reilly's goofed up and gave me 2 freaking rights, just gonna have to wait until, and for me, tomorrow I gotta go there and hopefully swap out a right for a left. And then I gotta give it that coat of race car red paint, so that's gotta dry. So for me, it's gonna be a couple of days or so, but for you, it's gonna be bang, race car red brake caliper back installed. And it's only been like 2 months since I initially did that. And yeah, other things have happened. Another video has come out on taking the engine apart. Here that is. But yeah, I think that is where we're going to leave the suspension for now. As you see, that's all good and back together. Looking pretty snazzy in here, especially with all the rust and the rot taken care of there. Thanks again, Mr. Smiley. Still got a few more things to take care of inside here. Case in point right there. And if I remember right, there was one spot on this side. Yeah, right here. So anyway, in the future, will be taking care of the other side off camera. And eventually we'll have to get in here and paint up the cross member and basically fog this black. You know, paint it black so it don't look whack. And yeah. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of putting the suspension back together on the car here. Hopefully coming up rather soon, we're going to be working on the engine, putting it back together. Might be a little while before I get those parts back. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Well, AMC, you later.